The War Council chamber aboard the Khazari Dominion dreadnought was carved from obsidian alloy, designed to intimidate lesser species with its sharp edges and total silence. Yet it wasn't the architecture that made Earth's delegation uneasy. It was the sound. Laughter. General Vornak's deep, resonant guffaw rolled through the room like thunder. He leaned back in his gravity throne, armor claws tapping against his knee. "This is who you send?" he growled, voice curling with amusement. "A scavenger squad dressed in mismatched armor? You must truly wish to amuse the galaxy before your extinction." Captain Mira Vasquez didn't flinch. Her armor was outdated by at least a decade, one shoulder plate spray-painted with a faded flag of Earth's Terran Alliance. She looked the general in the eye, 3 in fact, and offered a dry smile. "We figured if we couldn't outgun you, we'd at least dress for the comedy." The corner of Vornak's snout curled. Bravado, another human trait that smells of desperation. Behind Mira, her small squad remained quiet, each in their own world. Dr. Theo Kim, slight and owl-eyed, had pulled out a small notepad, paper of all things, and was sketching something involving gears and questionable physics. The guards eyed him with suspicion. Corporal Aisha Ace Okoye, tall and lean, stood just to the left of Mira, wearing a headset and tapping her foot to some internal rhythm. Her fingers danced mid-air as if guiding invisible marionettes. And then there was Sergeant Riker Brick Daniels, who leaned against the wall chewing gum like it was a performance. He gave a lazy salute when Vornak's eyes passed over him, then blew a bubble and winked. "You insult this council with your presence," Vornak spat. "Your tactics are chaos. Your weapons are obsolete. Your alliance is fractured. You fight like toddlers throwing sticks." "That's funny," Mira said calmly, "because toddlers win sometimes." Vornak's claws scraped the throne. "Enough. The Dominion will crush your outposts by dusk. Surrender, and we may leave some of your soil intact for future study." "No thanks," Mira said, turning. "We have plans for that soil." Back on the surface of the neutral planet Korathol, the Earth outpost sat beneath jagged cliffs and wide plains now crawling with Dominion troops. Orbiting drones broadcast Khazari invasion live across several systems. Viewers expected a quick, humiliating defeat for the Terrans. Instead, the feed went static. "What's the ETA on the blackout bubble?" Mira asked, stepping into the command tent. Dust sifted from the ceiling as the ground gave a low groan. "Already active," Theo mumbled, not looking up from the makeshift server stack he was rewiring. Quantum Pulse disabled their scouts for about 12 minutes. Maybe 16 if Brick didn't blow the capacitor. "I didn't," Brick called from outside, dragging something that looked suspiciously like an old construction bot missing its left arm. "I just rechanneled the flux power through the beer cooler." Ace grinned, her fingers flying across a cracked tablet. New drone patterns uploaded. "I'm calling it the Mirage Waltz. Should buy us some misdirection when the fun starts." Mira nodded. "We got less than 20 minutes before Vornak's drop pods hit. Everyone knows the plan." They did, because humanity's true weapon wasn't brute force. It was improvisation. 10 years ago, Earth joined the galactic community, not as a peer but as a curiosity. Resource poor, politically chaotic, militarily underwhelming. Yet somehow, humanity survived every encounter, not with strength, with audacity. Korathol had been deemed worthless by most factions. Unstable terrain, unpredictable seismic zones. Earth claimed it anyway, not for its beauty, but because of what lay underneath. Now, deep below the outpost, a forgotten mining facility roared to life. Repurposed turbines spun up. Magma sensors blinked yellow. Pressure valves hissed like snakes. Theo wiped sweat from his brow as he calibrated the geothermal monitors. "You sure this doesn't qualify as war crime adjacent?" "No laws against outthinking the enemy," Mira said, "or using the terrain to your advantage." "I was referring to launching the terrain at them," Theo muttered. Ace's voice crackled over comms. "Drones in position, ready to dance." Mira took a long breath and stepped onto the viewing platform. Through the rising dust, she saw Khazari forces descending. Sleek, symmetrical, coldly efficient. Right on schedule, she said, activating the seismic primer. The earth groaned beneath their boots. Vornak's command ship hovered above the field, his face bathed in the blue glow of tactical holograms. "Where's their resistance?" he snarled. "Why is the sky singing?" Indeed, across the field, tiny speakers hidden among rock formations played a syncopated rhythm. Earth jazz fused with tribal drums and synthwave. Vornak's troops shifted uneasily. Then the first tremor hit. A rumble, subtle at first. The Dominion's formations faltered. Structural instability? Barked the Khazari lieutenant. No, something else. From his ship, Vornak watched his fissures split the ground like cracking glass. Smoke rose in plumes. The once barren field now seethed with molten fury. And then came the roar, not of weapons, but of the planet itself. In the command center, Mira watched the seismic wave crawl beneath the Dominion ranks like a stalking predator. "Now," she said. With a flick, Ace launched her drones. They swarmed like fireflies, light patterns spinning, weaving illusions among the smoke. Theo adjusted frequencies, hacking into alien comms to loop confusion signals. Brick rode the half-finished mech into position, whooping like a madman. And Mira smiled, not out of malice, but certainty. "Welcome to Earth," she whispered, as the ground trembled louder. The tremor faded, leaving a momentary stillness, a breath held by the planet. Then came the aftershock, sharp and deliberate, cracking to the battlefield like a whip. Dominion soldiers staggered, their perfect formations unraveling. From above, Vornak watched in disbelief. "Report. Localized seismic activity." His science officer choked out. "Natural, but coordinated. Impossible." Vornak's lips curled. "No species can weaponize tectonics." Underground, deep in the heat-veined chambers of the old mining complex, Theo grinned as he recalibrated the pulse frequency of the drill-tuned stabilizers. "Correction," he murmured. "No other species." Cables snaked around him like vines in a jungle of scavenged tech. They had bolted industrial servos to old subway batteries and used copper piping from melted cafeterias as signal conduits. He was fairly certain a section of the cooling system had come from a space hot tub. "Mira," Theo radioed, "the next pulse can tilt the ground 6 degrees east. That'll send the Dominion's tanks into the ravine, if we're lucky." "Make us lucky," she replied. "Copy that." He took a sip from a cracked thermos labeled rocket fuel, actually cold coffee, and toggled the relay. Above ground, Ace crouched in the shadow of a broken comms tower, fingers ghosting over her tablet. Her drone swarm hovered nearby, cloaked in atmospheric distortion. She gave a quick whistle. "Hey, Brick, ready to drop the curtain?" Brick's voice came over the comm, loud as ever. "Showtime, Sparkle Queen." Ace rolled her eyes affectionately and triggered command. In a flash of synchronized light and sound, the drones ignited their displays. Holographic decoys burst into being, dozens of false soldiers, dancing and ducking, mimicking combat maneuvers. They flickered just enough to pass at a distance, confusing enemy sensors and line of sight. But it wasn't just misdirection. Each drone emitted a dissonant audio signal, a mashup of Earth music, coded commands, and ambient chaos. To a Dominion soldier, the battlefield had become a kaleidoscope of noise and motion, impossible to track. General Vornak slammed his fist against the control panel. "They defy logic. I see soldiers, yet no heat signatures. I detect units, yet their signals vanish mid-frame. What trickery is this?" His advisor looked pale beneath his scaled armor. "General, this is not strategy. It's madness." Vornak snarled. "It's human." Sergeant Riker Brick. Daniels grinned behind the cracked faceplate of his cobbled-together exo-rig. It wheezed with every step, but it worked. Mostly. The mech's legs were built from an abandoned mining walker, its arms from 2 separate load-bearing frames, and the right hand had been replaced with a rotary saw Mira swore was for constructive purposes only. "Eat iron, space lizards," Brick bellowed, charging out of a debris cloud straight into a Khazari flank. The Dominion troops fired, but their plasma shots skewed wide, either disrupted by magnetic interference or, more likely, Brick's erratic dodging that looked suspiciously like breakdancing. He swung the saw, carving a trench into the earth as sparks flew. You picked the wrong species to underestimate. The Khazari lines faltered. Behind them, a projected platoon of holographic humans surged forward, drones mimicking gunfire and shouts. The Dominion fired back, at illusions. Ace, observing from her tower perch, exhaled. They're biting the bait. Phase 2 is a go. Back in the command tent, Mira watched it all unfold on grainy monitors. Earth forces. Few scattered under-equipped. Dominion forces. Many trained, armored in shimmering black. And yet, the Dominion couldn't keep up. Not with the ground shaking beneath their boots. Not with their targeting scrambled by jazz-infused static. Not with drones playing warlike theater. They had prepared for brute resistance, not creative resistance. She turned to her second-in-command, a quiet logistics officer named Danny. Are the vent amplifiers set? Affirmative. All geothermal chimneys are primed. We just need your signal. Mira looked down at the dirt floor. So ordinary. So underestimated. Time to remind them what Earth is made of. Below, Theo initiated the quake sequence. Hydraulic compressors groaned. Thermal exchangers howled. Then boom. The next tremor erupted like a dragon waking from slumber. A deep, resonant quake that cracked the battlefield in concentric rings. Dominion tanks skidded sideways. Troops stumbled into crevices. And from the planet's core, controlled through vented tunnels, came roaring columns of steam and flame, blasting upward like geysers, forcing the Khazari to retreat. Did we just make the Earth scream? Brick asked over the radio. Sing, Mira corrected. She's singing. On the dreadnought, Vornak watched in horror as his battalion was swallowed by engineered chaos. They're not just resisting, he whispered. They're playing. As the sun dipped low and the smoke curled upward like incense, Mira stood beside Ace on a bluff, surveying the battlefield. Dominion troops were retreating, not because they were losing weapons-wise, but because they couldn't understand what they were fighting. Every move they made unraveled. Every tactic failed in the face of unpredictability. Ace nudged her. Think they'll try again? Mira smirked. They'll need a therapist first. Behind them, Brick pulled up in his half-destroyed mech, now decorated with spray-painted graffiti. Planet says no. Theo emerged from the bunker, soot-streaked and tired, but smiling. I tuned the last quake wave to 7.1, he said. Should have knocked out their long-range comms. You're a menace, Mira said fondly. He shrugged. That's just Earth science. Night fell, and the stars blinked overhead, unaware or perhaps amused. Vornak's ship vanished beyond the atmosphere, Bruised pride trailing behind. And on the surface of Korathol, a species once considered primitive gathered around a fire made of broken tech and melted expectations. They laughed, loudly, unapologetically, and somewhere beneath them, the earth rumbled again, soft this time, as if chuckling along. The sun clawed its way above the horizon, casting a bruised red light across the battlefield. The air still shimmered from residual heat. Smoke curled upward in lazy spirals. What had once been a flat expanse of dry rock was now a chaotic maze of fissures, scorched terrain, and cratered trails. The Dominion's pristine battlefield, shattered and unruly. Captain Mira Vasquez stood at the edge of a fractured ridge, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She looked more like a statue than a soldier, her expression unreadable behind her visor. Below her, Dominion stragglers stumbled back toward their extraction shuttles. They're retreating in clusters, reported Danny, handing over a tablet. But not fast. I think they're trying to figure out if this is a trap or just a really bad day. Mira glanced down at the feed. Let them guess. Behind her, Brick leaned against a collapsed support beam, bandaging a shallow gash across his bicep. Not to rain on our parade, he said, but they're not going to stay confused forever. Eventually one of them's going to ask, hey, why is the planet trying to kill us? Theo appeared beside him, dusted and volcanic, ash like he'd just crawled out of a myth. We got maybe 6 hours before their long-range comms come back online. And when that happens, Vornak's going to call in reinforcements. Ace piped up from her command node, fingers flicking across her drone controls. So what's the play? dance till the lava takes a lead? No, Mira said, turning. We finished the song. In the depths of the mining complex, Earth's final ace was almost ready. Massive turbines grown awake, devouring fuel like starving beasts. Theo stood between them, wires wrapped around his waist like a bandolier, muttering equations under his breath. You're building an artificial eruption chamber, Danny said, staring at the growing tremor curve on the screen. That's not just dangerous, it's insane. Theo's smile was thin but certain. Controlled chaos is just engineering with extra jazz. The plan was simple in theory. Destabilize the subduction point beneath the valley, channel the energy through reinforced conduits, and direct the eruption beneath the Dominion's command ship. Instant checkmate. But the timing had to be perfect. One mistake, and the blast would swallow the entire region, including the humans. Mira stepped beside Theo. Is this even going to work? He hesitated. It'll either work, or we'll make the most spectacular crater in Earth's diplomatic history. Mira looked up at the rock ceiling. We've always done our best work on the edge. General Vornak stalked the bridge of his hovering command ship, mandibles twitching with fury. This planet is not your weapon, he snarled over the comms. It is indifferent to your struggle. Primitive creatures can shake trees, but they cannot command the forest. Myra's face appeared on the holoscreen, bruised but calm. You're right. The Earth doesn't care about war. But you stepped on something older than your empire, and now it's waking up. You've declared war on the Dominion, he said. She tilted her head. No, you did that when you laughed. The line cut to static. Ace watched from the ridge as Vornak's ship adjusted its altitude, attempting to rise above the brewing geothermal surge. He's scared. Good, Mira said. That'll make him sloppy. A deep rumble vibrated through the ground, low and building. Theo's voice came over the comms. Pressure's spiking. You've got a 4-minute window to clear the hot zone. Copy that, Mira said. Ace launched the final swarm. Ace smiled, ready to paint the sky. Her drones lifted off, each carrying a small payload of ion disruptors. But more than that, they carried lights, sounds, and chaos. They swirled into formations that looked like ships, signatures copied from Dominion vessels, a false invasion from above. Vornak's scanners lit up like a festival. He panicked. Activate full defense grid. Intercept the aerial threat. While his ship diverted power to counter illusions, the ground beneath it cracked open. Below, Theo punched a final sequence into the main control terminal. The turbine screamed. A blinding pulse of white heat surged through the conduits. A moment later, the Earth screamed back. From beneath the valley floor, a column of flame and molten rock tore upward with apocalyptic force. The shock wave lifted Vornak's ship like a toy tossed into a storm, its shields buckling under the sudden upward thrust. The sky turned gold, and the general who had mocked Earth watched his empire's pride begin to melt. Impact confirmed. Theo said softly, sweat running down his neck. Ace, watching the plume for a perch, whispered, Holy hell, we made a volcano. Mira didn't respond. She was watching the sky, silent, as the Dominion ship listed, caught in the updraft of a man-made eruption, its stabilizers overloaded, flickering. Then, with a final flash of blue flame, the ship plummeted into the magma pit below. Danny murmured, Is that the end of him? Mira exhaled. If it's not, he's going to need a lot of ice. The battlefield fell quiet once more. The drones returned, some scorched, some still flickering music. The smoke thinned. The ground cooled. There was no cheering, no victory march. Only the quiet satisfaction of survival earned the hard way. Brick clapped Theo on the back. Remind me never to play poker with you. Ace sat cross-legged on a broken panel, sketching the eruption in swirling neon colors on her tablet. We just told the galaxy a story it'll never forget. Mira looked to the horizon. Not just a story, a warning. She paused and smiled faintly, but it ends with a punchline. The battlefield was quiet now, eerily so. A thick haze hung over the valley, rippling with residual heat from the artificial eruption. Cracked earth glowed faintly, steam rising like whispers from the scorched crust. The Dominion ship had vanished beneath the molten rift, its sleek black hull swallowed whole by Earth's fury. Humanity had won, but they didn't cheer. Not yet. Theo sat on the edge of a collapsed support beam, wiping soot from his glasses with a rag that was probably once part of Brick's uniform. "That went better than I expected," he murmured, sipping what remained of his warm cola. Nobody exploded. On our side, at least. Brick limped past him, dragging a sparking leg of his exo rig. "Speak for yourself." My knees clicking like a haunted typewriter. "You are a haunted typewriter," Ace muttered from nearby, where she lay sprawled beneath a drone carcass, fiddling with wires. "Also, pretty sure my drones are fried. I saw one doing the Macarena mid-dive." "Stylish," Theo said. "You're welcome," she replied, blowing on a fuse. Mira paced near the central ridge, scanning a handheld tracker with sharp, methodical movements. No signs of Dominion signals in the area. Nothing in orbit, either. Danny stepped beside her, tablet in hand. I ran a wideband scan. Their command network's gone dark. It's not just Vornak. No one's responding. Mira narrowed her eyes. They're either regrouping or reconsidering. After that stunt, Danny allowed herself a rare smirk. I'd reconsider too. Half a kilometer away, buried in the cool magma field, a broken fragment of Dominion tech, sparked dimly, an intact recording node. Somewhere across the stars, it would eventually transmit a scrambled, fragmentary message back to the Dominion's High Council. Unpredictable, terrain-weaponized, target species exhibits anomalous adaptability suggestion. Avoid further engagement. The Council would argue. Some would insist on retaliation. Others would advocate caution. But all would remember the footage, the Earth splitting open like a mouth, swallowing their best. The humans didn't fight like a species trying to win. They fought like one that refused to lose. Later, at the temporary base carved from the old mining complex, Mira gathered her team. They sat in a loose circle around a makeshift fire, a flickering heat lamp surrounded by scrap metal benches. The mood was subdued but not grim, the kind of quiet that comes after an impossible task completed. "We're not done," she began, tone even. "Just lucky. This was a tactical unit. There's still the wider war." Ace leaned back, arms folded behind her head. "So what, we do it all again? Find another volcano and hope Theo doesn't cook us like rotisserie pigeons." Brick raised a hand. "Technically, humans are closer to turkeys." "Not helping, Brick." Mira smiled faintly. "We're not just defending this planet anymore. We've shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of. That gives us something we didn't have yesterday." "Fear?" Theo asked. "Leverage," Mira said. "Now we have the Dominion's attention. That's dangerous, but also useful." Silence stretched between them for a moment. Then Theo broke it, softly. "You ever wonder why it had be us?" Ace rolled her eyes. "Oh no, he's waxing philosophical. Someone get a mop." "No, really," he said. "Why is it always Earth that surprises everyone? We're smaller, weaker, newer. Half our tech is duct taped together. The other half is stolen from microwaves." Brick shrugged. "Because we're too stupid to quit." "Because we improvise," Mira corrected. "We don't plan for what should happen. We respond to what is happening. That's our strength." Danny nodded. "Other species evolved to conquer. We evolved to adapt. That makes us hard to predict and harder to control." Ace kicked a pebble into the dirt. "So what now, boss?" Mira looked toward the stars, now fully visible above the smoking craters. The sky had cleared, just enough to remind them how vast the universe remained. "We rebuild," she said. "We prepare. We stay unpredictable." At dawn, the first refugee shuttles arrived. Survivors from settlements the Dominion had destroyed before the counterstrike. They came cautiously at first, afraid the battle was still raging. But when they saw the human flag fluttering beside a melted Dominion banner, they stepped out with wonder in their eyes. One small child stared at Brick's exosuit and asked, "Are you a robot?" Brick knelt down, voice gentle. "Nah, kid. I'm just what happens when Earth says not today." The child nodded solemnly, then asked if the robot suit had snacks. As the camp swelled, so did the stories of how humans made the ground move, how their machines tricked even the smartest AI, how they turned junk into miracles. They called it the Battle of Korathol. Some even called it the day the planet fought back. But among the crew, it was simpler. It was the day Earth laughed last. And somewhere, far from the ruined valley, deep in the void of space, a Dominion fleet drifted silently in wait, unsure whether to attack again. One admiral, reviewing the Korathol footage, paused at a shot of the final eruption. He stared at it for a long time before closing the file and muttering to himself. And then the earth trembled,